Welcome to another Brand Fortress HQ podcast, Tactics Tuesday. Today, we're going to be talking about how to leverage a community to power your brand. And I'm really excited to have this conversation because I think we have a couple of different angles on how you can do this with your brand. So the first one I want to start out with is I'm going to actually hand it over to you, Matt, because I know you're doing some really exciting things with Geo, the brand that you're building out in the open, and how you guys are building and looking at leveraging community as a part of your launch for this, very new brand.
Yes, I still don't. Oh, I was looking for the go live button on LinkedIn. That it's taking a little bit longer than it usually does, but I just hit it. Give me 1 second so I can focus on your question. All right. Got it. So yeah, with Geo. So one of the things that we decided from the very beginning, a goal that we set, and I think it initially started out to be a stretch goal, but I think we're going to blow past it. We wanted to have 500 people on a pre-launch list. There's a book that I read not too long ago from Ryan Daniel Moran that kind of laid out what his building a brand kind of process looks like. And that's really one of the first things that he does and he calls it a tiny little audience of about 100 people and the power that something like that has. And his mechanism for getting those 100 people on a list are just building the brand out in the open from the very beginning. And that's what we did. So kind of what that looked like for us is, first of all, we have a really unique product. It's a non-alcoholic. I hesitate to call it a seltzer because I think that word's overused, but it's essentially a kind of like a seltzer. Don't think of like a White Claw or a Truly, but non-alcoholic and with some functional ingredients. So I think that they're both of those, like the non-alcoholic, I think it's more of a trend. It's not a trend anymore. I think it's more of a movement that is kind of spanning the globe, as a matter of fact, but then also that functional piece. So there's a couple of interesting things about our product. I don't want to say a brand new category because those two categories exist, but we're really the first that's combining those two things. So there's a lot of cool things to talk about. There's a lot of things that people are already talking about, sober curious and functional ingredients and supplements and things like that. So building it out in the open, I think this brand lends itself really well to that because like I said, there's a lot of cool things to talk about. But really, I just go live once a week and I just talk about, what happened. And even if it's just kind of, hey, we just got new samples from our manufacturer, we didn't love them. Here's, we made a whole bunch of changes to flavors and potentially the bitterness of a particular ingredient. So really just building it out in the open and having a discussion around some things. But we've used that kind of our socials to ask them about flavor names and if they thought that we should go with dual fruit flavors as opposed to kind of mocktail names. And like we've actually used the little bit of an audience that we have. I mean, we probably have a couple hundred followers across all of our socials that are organic. Yes, we do have some friends and family, but we do have some people that just came from just organic posting. We're posting pretty regularly. And we hired a social media agency to handle a lot of that for us, as opposed to us having to post ourselves and come up with that content. So really for us, it's building it out in the open, kind of getting people excited about the brand, but also getting them on a pre-launch list is kind of how we're approaching this brand. I mean, we're still a month and a half away from hopefully when we launch, and we already have a couple of hundred people on that pre-launch list, which is going to be like fuel to the fire once we get ready to launch.
So, Matt, if you could share a little bit, what did that buildup look like? I mean, because obviously when you start a new brand, you start from zero. So, social media wise, how long did it take kind of posting and putting some content out there and doing those lives before you started to see, more than a handful of followers?
So initially it started I feel like Instagram and Facebook are slow in that, there's not, from an organic standpoint, you don't really get a lot of exposure in the beginning. TikTok, on the other hand, if you're posting regular content, now we haven't really got to the place where we're posting really engaging content yet because we really need the cans in order to actually create content, the kind of content that we want. Really, our brand is built around what we know about people that are going to consume our products is that they do consume alcohol. They're not people that don't, but they're also people that enjoy social activities. They like going to baseball games and festivals and concerts, but they don't want to drink alcohol on a Tuesday night. So like those types of people, I think it's hard to build up just from an organic standpoint on Facebook and Instagram. We haven't really spent anything on advertising because we don't have a product to sell yet. So I would say where a lot of our organic followers have come from are just regular posting on TikTok. Now, again, it's not great content yet because we don't have actual cans. It's just kind of informational and educational about some of the ingredients that we're using. But I would say the vast majority of the organic followers that aren't friends and family or people that know other brands that we work with, all came from TikTok for the most part. We have a couple videos that have gotten over 1,000 views. I mean, nothing viral yet, and I don't expect that to happen anytime soon, but it has amounted to followers on all three of those main platforms: Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
All right. And I think that's a really good example of, if you're launching a new brand or a new product of, maybe what that looks like as far as social media. I think what I want to do now is, Mike, is pivot to you because, you have an email list and, a brand, within the pool tools category that maybe isn't as, social media sexy as something, and kind of in the zeitgeist, like what Matt's working on. So talk to me about, how you've built that audience and how you're building kind of that community and then leveraging that community in order to move the brand forward.
I mean, we've talked about this a number of times because obviously we're very focused on kind of the post-purchase process, especially for Amazon sellers and what that means in terms of the ability to build a brand and what does that actually look like? How do you define building a brand, right? And I would say that from our perspective, Amazon's great. You can make a lot of sales there. There's a lot of volume, but if you're not building that list, of course, you're in jeopardy always because Amazon could always shut you down. We've talked about that a lot. But in our case, it was the warranty that we utilized in order to build that list. It was a fairly simple means to an end. We have a really, really high-powered warranty. And so it just makes it that much more likely that someone will register after the fact. We do a number of things in our product packaging to encourage that even further. One of those is making sure that we either use a hang tag or we use something similar that it requires the user to interact with that insert in some way before they can actually use the product, rather than just tossing it out with the box or whatever. I have to remove it. I can't just, ignore it. That has improved our registrations, making sure that that there are additional reasons for them to register, like there's a contest that they're entering and that sort of thing. So we get pretty good registration rates. But the biggest thing is that once you have them on the list, you have to do something with it. A cold list is not of that much value. So if you add a bunch of customers to a list, but you never send them any emails, then you haven't really accomplished anything and you certainly aren't building a brand. So the biggest thing is that we do have an automated process that sends out, about 30 emails, something like that, maybe a little less, that are automated on a weekly basis so that, for essentially, 6 months, they're receiving regular mailings from us that are basically telling them how to maintain their pool, how to use our tools better, other product recommendations of different brands, things that we think they might want to pay attention to, stuff like that. But then also the way that we end up using that in a community sense is that we also build our, we'll say, not the brand out in the open necessarily so much, but each individual product launch becomes public in the sense that we're launching it in front of our community, which is our email list. So from start to finish, that process involves them. So, at the first steps, it's what would be the new products that you would want to see, then we take that and we narrow that down to the ones that we think we have the best shot at being the best of category, that fit our warranty structure, effectively, that we think there's improvements that we can make that are significant within the industry. Then we go back to the list and we say, okay, these are the 3 that we think are the best options for ProTough. Which one would you want? And they vote again. And so, okay, whichever one is voted, then we go forward with that, or maybe we go forward with all 3 if they're all great. But then as we walk through that, as we're designing the product, as we're adding features, what features do you want to see? What are the features that you hate about other products? What color would you want it to be? And then once we get the product developed, then the prototypes, who wants to be a beta tester, things like that. So it's all very organic. And again, if you've been listening to the podcast for long enough, you've probably already heard that messaging. But I think it's important to recognize that as you do that, it does build that very community nature where they feel like they're a part of the brand. They feel like they're a part of something bigger. And when you launch those products, anybody on your list that has any amount of, use, let's say, for that product that you're about to launch is going to buy it. They are absolutely going to buy it. And you don't have to give a 50% off discount. 10 or 15 or 20% is oftentimes enough to stimulate a pretty significant purchase rate out of that community. And so the ease with which you can launch products that way and the profitability of those launches is miles ahead of anything that you can do if you don't have that community built. And it doesn't matter where that community is. I would say that email is good because it's your community. If you build it on social, it's not technically yours. You can be shut down at any time, just the same way that Amazon could shut you down on their platform. So in that sense, I would suggest that building a community via social is a means to an end. And I think the end should still be an email list, at the end of the day. But social is a very useful, avenue for doing that, especially on the front end. If you don't have a brand, you don't have a product where you've got inserts in the back end that you're, funneling into a list. If you don't have any of that yet, then social is a tremendous avenue. And mostly socials that have that kind of organic component where you don't have to pay for traffic on the front end. So TikTok, YouTube Live or YouTube Shorts, that sort of thing, I think are tremendous. And I would also say for anybody who has a very unsexy product like pool cleaning tools, we have been actually amazed at the fact that our TikTok content, even though none of it is particularly viral in nature, it's not all that terribly interesting. Some of it is UGC, reviews and things like that, but a lot of it isn't. I have been amazed to find that our average view count per video is about 500 views, which, if you're posting regularly, 500 views on every single video that you put out, that's a lot of eyeballs on your brand. And every once in a while, especially if you're getting in that 500, every once in a while, you're going to kick off one that gets a few thousand or 10,000. So if your product is not a sexy product, I would say do not discount the usefulness of social platforms like TikTok. I did for quite a long time. I ignored TikTok, assuming that we really just weren't a good fit. Turns out I think we are actually a decent fit. And we actually have some ideas about how to be much more interesting on that platform and possibly gain some virality for some of our videos. So we could talk about that some more. But
yeah, I think that's such an important point is that, depending on where you're at with your brand and in that kind of process, like, yeah, you might have a brand and products that are in the zeitgeist that already have naturally, kind of audiences that are very engaged built into them. And sometimes you don't. And if you don't, what I like about that, Mike, is thinking about, hey, how can I take an angle in order to make this, unsexy product, brand, category, whatever it happens to be, how can I make it interesting? So I think, that's a really good point. Before we dive into that, though, I'm just really curious based on what you said for your email list, because I think this is so important. I just want to double click on it is that, yes, having an after purchase, system is really important in order to collect those email addresses because you can take those with you anywhere. But having that interaction and building up that community, like just collecting that email address is not enough. Like you do actually have to send out email messages. I'm curious on those kind of 30 messages. How long did it take you in order to build that? And how, what is that something that you look at like once a quarter, or what does maintenance on that look like?
Sure. If I'm being completely honest, maintenance on that has been zero for quite a long time. We have added some additional, when an article came up that we thought was useful, maybe we've added that as an email, but as a rule, maintenance on it has been nil. I wouldn't recommend that. I don't think that's the best approach. Fortunately, most of the content that's in there is very evergreen content within the pool space. So, it's not that big of a deal that we haven't really done that, but we also haven't taken the time to split test any of them, check different subject headings, things like that. Like, we really have not been nearly as proactive with that email list as we should be to be even more effective than we are. So what I find interesting, and from I would think that the reason for this is more brand loyalty than it is anything. That customers really have come to that place where they just really love our brand because of who we are and what we do for them. And so when we send an email, a lot of times I think our open rates have a lot less to do with how interesting the email is and more to do with the fact of who sent it. And so they just open it, right? Like maybe there's some little tidbit in here that might be useful to me, even if the subject heading isn't particularly interesting, right? So we get now, and we've talked about this before, so you have to be careful with citing numbers without qualifying it, but we get about a 50% open rate for every email that we send out. Obviously, that's not accurate. Apple users, that credits it as opened, even if it's not technically open. So I'm sure that our open rates are not actually 50%, but everybody has to track it the same way. You don't have a way to track it any other way. So if you're comparing against most other email lists out there, we have a much higher open rate than most other email lists. And I think most of that comes down to they're very brand loyal. It doesn't have so much to do with how interesting the emails are. It's that they really love our brand. So on that front, if you want people to open your emails, do good things for them, treat them well, have a really amazing product with a terrific warranty and wonderful customer service and all of those things, right? Because if you're doing those things right, even if you are incredibly boring, they will still pay attention to you just because they like you.
Yeah, I think that's the key point is, again, the authenticity piece of it and taking care of people. Like I know as, someone who spends a lot of time marketing, I get caught in this trap of like, oh, what is the perfect, wording for that subject line and the best copy and that type of stuff. And yeah, those things can help. But at the end of the day, like people want to connect with other people. And so if you're authentic by, outside of that email, then you're going to see your open rates be a lot higher and your marketing overall be a lot more effective because people really are interested in what you're doing as a brand and who you are as a person, in addition to having a really good product.
Well, on top of that, I think also being consistent plays a really big part, not just emails, but also like Mike mentioned, TikTok. I really do think that their algorithm is significantly based on consistency and how often you're posting. I think that is in a lot of cases as important as the quality of the post, especially in the beginning when TikTok doesn't really know who you are or who to show your videos to. So I think consistency is a big part of that. But one of the things I wanted to say about an audience, and for me, when I started thinking about starting an Amazon brand, my experience was with a healthy meal prep business that we launched about 10 years previous. And the audience that we attached ourselves to wasn't one that I created personally, but it was one that already existed that my product or my service was complementary to. So the CrossFit community ate paleo food. That was kind of, they went hand in hand. So my meal service was a paleo meal service that we went and marketed to CrossFit gyms. So because I created a win-win scenario for the CrossFit gym owner, it was a value add for his gym, but also we gave him an affiliate commission for any meals that he sold delivered to his gym. So he was incentivized to tell people, but they wanted it anyway. So like I didn't have to do, Michael went the long route on building his list. And because of that, they're very super engaged. They trust him. They know him. They like him. They know the brand. Like he said, for me, it was an audience that had already existed. So I don't want to say it's the easy way because there was still a lot of work involved in creating those relationships and that kind of stuff. But you don't have to create a list or an audience from scratch. Like there are other existing groups out there. The other thing that we were able to kind of piggyback along with were Facebook groups, not only in the CrossFit space, but also for our Amazon brands. Like my first brand was a barbecue accessories brand, and we partnered with a Facebook group that had about 40,000 members in it that were all super passionate about barbecuing and smoking meat and things like that. So again, it wasn't an audience that I created, but it was one that we attached to the brand, and a lot of things become a lot easier. So for me, I think that one of the things that I want to make sure that people understand while we're talking about this is that building an audience is a specialized skill, I think, that not a lot of people have. Not everybody has, certainly. And there's a lot of people out there that have that skill, but don't know how to monetize the audience that they've created. So matching your brand with an existing audience, it makes sense. And it's not big and scary. It's just reaching out to Facebook group owners and saying, hey, I have this brand idea. You have an audience for it. How can we come together? So I think that's also a really good way to leverage an audience with one that you didn't have to build yourself.
I think people would be really shocked, actually, to learn just how many individuals there are out there that have managed to build a community. And I would say that many of them have built the community by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was not ever intended to be what it's become, right? They were just very genuine individuals that were very passionate about some particular topic or some sport or whatever it was. And this community just became.
Mm-hmm.
And so now those people are in the position of, they recognize that there's value in that community. They recognize that other people are monetizing their communities. So there's really no reason they shouldn't also be able to do so, but they don't know how. Most of them don't have any business experience. They don't have any marketing experience. They don't really know any of that. And so, there is a gold mine out there. If you would just simply take the time to look for communities that already exist, where the people that you want to sell to are already in that community. If you reach out to 20 communities, even if you don't do anything else other than determine that they're in the right target market, right? Like they have the right people. You don't even have to research anything else. Just reach out to them and make the offer. Like, hey, I see that you've got a list. You've got this community. It looks like, everybody really loves you and what you're doing. We have this product that we think would be, or this service that we think would be really amazing for them. Could we partner up in some way? You would be surprised. I would be amazed if at least 2 or 3 of those, community leaders didn't reach back out to you and say, oh, I'm so glad you contacted me. I have no idea how to monetize this list. I would love to do that. Right now, you might get 17 people who don't respond, or who respond back and they're like, nah, I know what I'm doing. I don't need your help, whatever. But if you get 2 or 3 responses back that say, oh yeah, we'd love to do that, what could you do with that? I think, there's gold there.
Well, and just to piggyback off of that, one thing that comes to my mind that's been in the news a little bit recently is, if you think about who the ultimate YouTube creator is, at least right now, it's Mr. Beast, who has dipped his toes into a number of different types of products and actually run into some pretty significant problems. And so I bring that up because, most of the listeners of this podcast and the people in our community really know how to develop a product, how to get it manufactured, and how to make a really good product that people are really going to want to buy. And that is a whole nother different skill set. So, I think that's really important to keep in mind is that, Matt, like you said, these are very different skill sets. I mean, obviously, Mr. Beast is amazing at building an audience and making really engaging YouTube videos, but doesn't have, the expertise at that same level for, launching a brand and products, and needs somebody with that experience. And so, maybe it's not to the Mr. Beast level, but there's a lot of other creators out there that have built communities that, don't have a tenth of the experience of, the people that are listening to this podcast do in what it takes in order to develop a product, get it manufactured, and get it delivered to customers.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know what her name is, and by the time this episode goes live, I want to be able to give her credit because I heard her speak on stage, and I think, Michael, you probably did too at one of the BDSS events. I don't remember her name, but this is what she does. She pairs influencers or celebrities with physical product brands.
Janelle?
Janelle or Janelle. Yeah, we need to give her some sort of credit in the
amazing.
show notes or something
She's
like that.
Absolutely amazing.
But I mean, that's what she does.
She does.
This is exactly what she does. I think now, because she's perfected the finding someone that has the eyeballs and connecting them with a physical product brand, I think she's actually creating the brand from scratch for a lot of these influencers now. Janelle Page, I think. Is that her last name?
I believe that's correct. I'm trying to find her right now, actually.
But yeah, this is what she does. And it's essentially what I did with the Facebook group. Now, obviously he wasn't an influencer, but I would argue that there's 100,000 members in his group now are probably more engaged than if I were to have gone and found just like a The Rock influencer or something along those lines. Like I have 100,000 people that these are the guys that are out checking their brisket at 2:00 in the morning. They aren't someone that just signed up for something free on an email list or saw someone in a movie and decided to hit follow on their social profile. Like these are people that are very interested in what we sell. So I would say that audience is probably more engaged than me going out and finding someone that has 1 million followers, just kind of random people. So yes, I mean, she does that. And then she's made she's made a lot of very successful brands just by pointing eyeballs that already existed in one place and pointed them to products that they were already buying anyways.
It is Janelle Page. That is, it's Page, and she's terrific.
Yeah.
And man, she got a lot of energy. I'll tell you what.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Well, Matt, you bring up a really good point, because I think it circles back to, something you mentioned earlier, which is, some people might get caught up in, hey, I only have 1,000 people on my email list, or only 100 people following my brand, or, this influencer or community only has 1,000 members. At the end of the day, it really matters, how passionate those people are. Because, I mean, it's not hard to build an email list with 10,000 emails. It's pretty easy to do that. But are they going to be people that are, true fans of your brand, are going to be engaged and are going to be, into the solution that you're providing through your brand and through your products? I would much rather take 1,000 of those that are really truly engaged, as opposed to an email list of 100,000 people that could care less about, the brand or the product that I'm working with.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, one of the things before we wrap up today that I think is useful to think through, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but we talked about this whole social piece, and that you can be a boring product and a boring brand, and you can still actually have a following there. And especially if you're connecting with the right audience that has a passion for what you do, or, whatever. But there's also an aspect of that where, and this is the reason why I thought our brand was a bad fit for social, is that there's this aspect of how excited do people get, or how much are they going to share things, or how viral could you make a video about, such and such a brand or topic. And you might think, well, cleaning pools is not something that you can make viral. And to some degree that's accurate, but we actually have come up with a few ideas that I will say we have not yet implemented, but I am entirely convinced that at least one of them, if not more of them, could end up producing some results for us. One of them is, because we offer an unlimited and unconditional lifetime warranty on our products, what that allows us to do is we're super liberal with the warranty. Like, we'll cover basically anything, loss, theft, it doesn't matter, right? So I don't know how many people in the audience remember this, but there was, so Blendtec is like a rival to Vitamix blenders. And they had a series that they did, that a bunch of viral videos that they ran. It was this series of videos, and it was called Will It Blend? And the idea was to prove, obviously, how tough a Blendtec blender is, and that it can blend up pretty much anything. But by extension of that, they were blending up just about anything you can think of. So they were throwing iPhones in there, and they were throwing in, action figures and broomsticks, and, whatever you could think of that you might be able to shove in there to try and break a blender. That's what they were doing. And every time, of course, it blended it all up, and it never broke, and that sort of thing. So it became this, wow, Blendtecs are indestructible. But it was just fun to watch the videos and see what the next thing was that they were going to blend up. So this idea came to me a few weeks ago, which is, because of our warranty and because we cover anything, doing a series that's, and I don't know that this is the right name. I'd really love to come up with a better name for it, but is it covered? And it would basically just be these stupid antics, like we need either one or multiple influencers or whatever who would potentially, dress up as either people, cleaning their pool, or pool pros, whatever it is. We're thinking we might focus on pool pros, but the idea of all of the ridiculous things that could potentially happen to your pool tools that we would still cover, so, things like, you were in the one of your clients, pools, and you set your tool down. The dog gets a hold of it, and you've got a tug of war with the dog on the side of the pool. The net rips, we cover it, right? Somebody steals it out of the back of your truck, we cover it. You're driving down the road, the pole falls out of your vehicle and it gets run over by 12,000 vehicles, we cover it. That's sort of a series, and you could get really crazy and out of the norm, let's say, with some of the things that you could do with that. I don't know if it's going to work. I think we need to find the right person to do it. But at the same time, it takes something really, really boring and potentially makes it something quite interesting that we might be able to make a series out of.
One of my favorite channels to watch on TikTok, you say boring, and I bet this guy didn't initially think that his business would be good for TikTok. He's a guy that goes around to people's lawns that are just terrible, like overgrown, more than you can even imagine. And he basically offers them a free to cut their lawn for free. And he does an amazing job. He films it. And for me, like, it's very satisfying to watch him go up and down especially if it's the worse the lawn is, the more satisfying it is to watch him do that. But I mean, this guy gets hundreds of thousands of views on his videos, and you can see people commenting like he travels the country now and does people's lawns because they saw him on TikTok and they want this guy to do their lawn. So, I mean, I would imagine that he changed the trajectory of his boring service business by posting regular videos and he was giving it away. Like, that was the other part of his videos, is that he was offering this for free to the people, which was, it tugs at your heartstrings a little bit. So it made people resonate a little bit more with the guy. But I mean, every video that I see of this guy, when he pops up in my feed, is hundreds of thousands of views of him cutting someone's lawn.
And same thing, like, pools, like we could do green to clean, or something like that. Or, there's all sorts of, potentially unique ways that you could introduce your product, no matter how boring the product is. And I didn't realize that, honestly, until pretty recently. But I think if we can just be a little creative with it and think outside the box, I think almost anything you can do that with.
Yeah. And I think that, kind of bringing it full circle just gives you such an advantage, especially, I know we're talking about social media, but then you start looking at, Amazon, or even selling off your own website, of being able to build an audience, have a community, and then not only to drive traffic there if you're doing, some sort of sale or promo, but I think probably the biggest thing, that you guys have both talked about is that in order for a brand to be healthy, like, you do have to be launching products on a fairly regular basis, and having that community is a huge advantage to test out new ideas, to get feedback on, like, hey, what product do they want next? Because then, not only, you don't have to be the expert as the business owner or the brand owner, but also you're engaging them in the process. So it becomes, to a certain extent, their brand as well. And I think that that's a very powerful aspect of it, when they feel like they've got, some ownership over the brand and are working with you towards a common goal.
Well, and no matter how big or small that list is that you might have, the reality also is if it's a targeted list, let's say you got 1,000 people on your list, but it's a very targeted list. And if the majority of them are telling you, this is the product, these are the features that we want, this is the color that we want, this is, whatever, there are hundreds or thousands of times more people out there that fit that exact same target demographic. They're going to think the exact same way. And so if they have told you, this is the product and this is how we want you to make it, you are nearly guaranteed to have a winner product that a whole bunch of other people are also going to want, because they think the same way that this target avatar does. So, you save yourself a lot of headache, a lot of, failed launches. And, again, they're profitable because you don't have to offer a 50, 60, 70% off, discount code in order to get enough people buying it that you get, the snowball that you're looking for. You can sell it nearly full price and still get that snowball running.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a good place to wrap as we kind of, wrap up this episode. What's maybe, one action item that you guys would have for listeners as they think about kind of either building a community or leveraging that community for their brand?
I would say go to Facebook and type in an interest of a group of people that that are purchasing your products. I know that you already know of who that group of people are, and I guarantee you that there's a Facebook group of those people that are all in this group that talk about this particular subject in products like yours on a regular basis. And all you have to do is find them. And even if it doesn't turn into a partnership like it did for me and my products, even just being in that community of people and listening to how they talk and what they talk about and what products they mention, you're going to be a lot farther. Just social listen if you're not going to do anything else. But I guarantee you there's a Facebook group of people that are filled with people that buy products like you're selling. And you can do that right now with that. It doesn't cost you a dime.
Yeah. I would say two things. One, if you're already selling a product or multiple products and you are not really engaging with that post-purchase process, definitely do that. There's gold there that you're missing out on, and those launches will be much easier. I guarantee it if you walk that road. I would also say, in relation to what Matt was saying, the alternative to that or additional component to that is you also have available to you, I guarantee it, dozens of other brands that exist out there that are selling to the same audience, but are not selling a competing product to yours. Therefore, there's no reason at all that you should not be considering a partnership with that company so that you can share the audience. Like every company is always looking for more ways that they can monetize the audience that they already have. And if a company only sells XYZ product, but they have a community of 10,000 people and they want to find a new way to monetize it, what do they need? They need products that they don't already sell in order to sell to that community. You have a product, go talk to them, set up some affiliate arrangement, whatever it is. I mean, there's ways to make a partnership work in that scenario. And I guarantee if you contact enough other companies that are complementary to your own and selling to the same customer avatar, you will find some good partners and you will make more money.
Yeah, and I'll leave it with, be interesting. No matter how you're doing that, reaching out to your audience, whether it's email or social media, and that, could mean you have a really powerful brand mission. It could be that you're doing, something to educate or entertain your audience, but just be interesting in that process. And I think, and quite frankly, probably 49 out of your first 50 attempts are probably going to fall flat. And that's okay. But be interesting in that process. And I think you'll be happily surprised to see how your customers and your audience react to that and how that pays dividends for your brand down the road.
And oftentimes different is enough to be interesting.
Yeah.
Just different. I mean, we sell pool tools. There's nothing interesting about a pool tool, but it is interesting that we sell an unlimited lifetime replacement warranty that's completely unconditional. Nobody else does that. It's not interesting in and of itself, except for the fact that it's different than everybody else in that category. So it becomes interesting as a result because of what customers get out of that. So,
yeah, absolutely. And so I would just, encourage listeners out there to figure out what is that interesting thing about your brand, in order, because it will really make a big difference as you look at building a brand on Amazon and beyond. If you have something that you can be interesting with to really grab people's attention and build those connections.